Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Temple Institute Parsha class. My name is Gedalia Meyer, and I'm podcasting from Ma'ale Adumim in Israel. When it comes to matters of justice, we all have strong opinions. Many of us couldn't care less about religion or sports or fashion or art or politics or plenty of other things. But when the subject is justice, we all care deeply. This matter strikes a chord in every single one of us. Perhaps it is because we have run into some apparent injustice in the past, and we have sensed how truly wrong this was. Perhaps it is because of some ingrained feeling that was drummed into us from our childhood that we care so much about it. Perhaps it is simply human nature, built into the brain or the soul from our ancient ancestors or even from God. Whatever the reason, justice matters. It is a bit strange if we think about it. Frequently, we discover to our horror that there are many situations in which there is no justice whatsoever. There wasn't even meant to be any. That's just the way things are. While it is not easy to come to grips with such a realization, there is no question that a sign of maturity is recognizing that such is indeed the case. We have no explanation for this, and we wish it weren't so, but that doesn't change the facts. Justice simply cannot be found in a disturbing amount of situations. Little kids are particularly perturbed by this. "It isn't fair" is one of the most common complaints one will hear from a child. It seems that we never fully outgrow this sense of outrage, perhaps because there is no reason to. The outrage is entirely justified, and there is no reason to not be outraged. On the contrary, throwing in the towel would be a form of giving in to the injustice and perhaps contributing to the evil that results. The truly sad part about this is that all too often there is no real injustice going on to begin with. There is simply a situation in which something bad happened due to no real fault of anybody else. Bad things happen, and that's that. Of course, we all have problems with this rather heartless assessment of things, but we all know that it is true nevertheless. There are more than enough situations in which somebody is truly at fault and justice needs to be served. But there are considerably more situations in which nobody can be blamed, but somebody still feels like they need justice. What is to be done when this happens, as it does all the time? There is no answer to this question. We can try to find somebody to blame, but all too often there is nobody to be found. Sometimes it is literally an act of nature or God or whatever. Sometimes it is what we call a quirk of fate. Sometimes it is just an accident, perhaps due to some carelessness or perhaps not. These are the real problem cases, since we have somebody to pin things on, but we realize that they weren't really at fault. What should be done under those circumstances? Should we trash that person since they are the closest thing to the whipping boy that we need so badly? Or should we just let the dust settle and recognize that not all accidents are justiciable? This is truly a quandary, and most people really don't know how to deal with it. They want somebody to blame things on, but they understand that what they have will not quite do the trick. Accidents happen. This is not a new problem. It is as old as humanity. There have always been accidents, and there always will be. For as long as we have discussed these things, there has been an ingrained sense of needing justice. This matter goes back to ancient times and probably long before recorded history. It is found in the Bible repeatedly. It is one of the great problems of life, even if it has never really been recognized as such. This week's Parsha is called Shoftim. That word means judges. The very different looking and sounding word mishpat means justice. These two words and related spin-off words are found all over this Parsha. There is no question that this is the primary theme of the Parsha, even though there are plenty of verses that have nothing to do with justice or judges or any of that. But there are so many paragraphs or even single verses that get right into this subject that we find the rare situation in which the name of a Parsha is actually the general theme of the entire Parsha. What happens in this Parsha? First off is the opening statement, which is a commandment to appoint and place judges and officers to administer justice in the land. This is followed by an admonition to not bend justice, meaning no bribery. This has always been such a pervasive problem that the Bible has to single it out many times, even though there will always be a sense of swimming against the tide in combating this ever-present scourge. Next, there is a series of verses dealing with the constant Deuteronomic theme of idolatry. This is followed by the requirement of a Supreme Court to handle the really difficult cases. This Supreme Court has to be the final word in all matters of justice, since this is the only way to really solve this ubiquitous problem. There can be no veering left or right from their ruling, even if it seems that they are calling what seems to be left right and right left. This is an unfortunate necessity of living in a society that seeks justice. There are paragraphs about appointing a king for an even higher authority. Then there is something about the Levites and their rights as servants of the people. There is a section dealing with the constant need for a prophet to declare somehow what the word of God is for any given time or situation. In a sense, this is the ultimate form of justice, even though it frequently could be at odds with what we might believe. There is a section on the, quote, cities of refuge for accidental killings. This is followed by laws of actual murder and how it is to be handled. There are laws about witnesses, about going to war, about taking captives, and about laying siege to a city. The Parsha closes with a puzzling section dealing with a killing that simply cannot be solved. A person was found dead, and there's no evidence whatsoever as to who might be the culprit. The solution for this dilemma, if it could be called a solution, is to take a female calf which has never been worked and to bring it to a stream and decapitate it there. The elders of the city nearby would literally wash their hands of the crime over the decapitated calf in the stream. The Levites, who have already been called to the scene, then beseech God for forgiveness for the spilt blood of this innocent person. The final verses declare that the blood is atoned for, since they did what was right in the eyes of Hashem. It is difficult to know what to make of all this. Is this justice? Does it accomplish anything at all? This is literally a case of people washing their hands of the crime, since there was nothing they could do about it anyway. What does this actually do? As interesting as these questions are, we are going to leave them for another time and focus on something earlier in the Parsha, those cities of refuge. What was that all about, and what were they supposed to accomplish? This is not the first time these cities of refuge have appeared in the Torah. They were hinted at in the book of Exodus and detailed extensively toward the end of the previous book, Numbers. There is even a short section towards the beginning of Deuteronomy in which Moshe actually designates 3 cities east of the Jordan River to serve as the cities of refuge for the Israelites who lived in that area. The details of these cities of refuge are spelled out both in the section in our Parsha and in the long section at the end of Numbers. The cities were to serve as places to which an accidental killer could flee to avoid the vengeance of the relatives of the victim of the accident. The specific criteria for an accident is described in our Parsha. The example case described is one in which a person is chopping wood and the handle of the axe flies off and kills somebody else. The city of refuge is for that wood chopper to have a place safe from the vengeance of the relatives. Any parallel case would also qualify for this situation. There were to be 3 of these cities on either side of the Jordan River, since any potential accidental killer would need relatively easy access to one to not suffer the fate of injustice for what was obviously an accident. There may have even been some negligence involved with the axe or something else, but there was still no deliberate murder. The killer must remain in that city for the rest of their life, or as we find in Numbers, until the death of the high priest. If this person leaves, they are subjecting themselves to the possibility of vigilante justice, and the whole purpose of these cities of refuge is to avoid that. The section closes with the comment that this is to prevent innocent blood from being spilled in the land, and that not having these cities is tantamount to spilling blood. In the middle of this is a promise that when God expands the borders of Israel, it will be necessary to add 3 more cities to those already in existence. This is because more land means more space, and thus more cities of refuge nearby. This promise, we are told, is a reward for keeping the commandment of loving God and going in God's ways. But if that were truly the case, why should more of these cities be needed? Shouldn't the promise be that there will be no more accidental killings? Who needs these accidental killings to begin with? If everybody is following God's laws and behaving in a godly manner, the least we can expect is some sort of divine protection from these terrible accidental killings. How is having 3 more of these cities a reward for serving God? Perhaps the answer to this question is that accidents will always happen. There is no divine protection from an accident. Accidents happen. The only thing we can do to prevent them is to try to be more careful. And if that doesn't work, setting up a system so that people who are the perpetrators of these accidents don't get unfairly blamed for something worse. This, in and of itself, is a form of justice. The perpetrator does suffer, either through having to spend a good deal of their life in a city of refuge, or through carrying some feeling of guilt around with them wherever they go. The city of refuge is a form of protection for the person who caused the accident, protection from the vengeance of the victim's side. Everybody wants some sort of justice, but that very desire for justice can lead to injustice. When the cause of the damage is an accident, the only form of justice available may be allowing the perpetrator of the accident to stew in their own guilt. This very possibly is the way God set things up in our minds to begin with. We all want justice, but sometimes it can only come in a way that doesn't give us that sweet feeling of revenge. Shabbat Shalom.